If your home looks nice but still doesn't feel custom, the problem is almost never the paint color. It's not the furniture, and it's not even the budget. It's the architecture or the lack thereof. Most homes are full of flat walls, standard doors, and one ceiling light in the middle of the room, because that's what came with the house. Nobody stops to ask why the trim is thin, why the doors feel short, or why a room with beautiful furniture in it still reads as builder grade. You notice something feels off, but you just can't quite name what it is. Today, we are going to be talking about 6 details you can add in your home that fix this. 6 specific architectural moves that separate a home that was decorated from a home that was designed, and none of them require a full renovation, I promise. Make sure you stay until the very end because, as always, I'm gonna save the best for last. I'm Nina, celebrity interior designer. Welcome back to this week's episode of The Red Elevator. If you're new here, please subscribe. We have noticed that 60% of you that watch this channel are actually not subscribed. And it would really help the team, it would help the algorithm, it would help the channel for us to be able to reach more people and spread the word of good design. So we would really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, number 1, taller interior doors. This is where that custom feeling starts. Before the trim, before the lighting, before anything else, take a look at your doors. Standard interior doors are 80 inches tall. That number was never chosen for beauty, it was chosen for cost and framing efficiency. And your eye knows the difference, even if you can't explain why. An 80-inch door in a room with 9 or 10-foot ceilings leaves a gap above the frame that reads as unfinished, as if the room and the door were never designed together in the first place. Here's why height matters. A tall door, 8 feet or beyond, closes that gap. It draws the eye upward instead of stopping it early, and the ceiling itself starts to feel much higher, even when it hasn't changed. So this is one of the few upgrades where a few extra inches changes how an entire room is perceived. If you're building or doing a large renovation, this is worth prioritizing over anything else on this list. If you're not, there are some smaller versions of the same idea. Lining up the top of the doors with the top of a nearby window creates a sense of everything was planned together. And painting the door the same color as the surrounding wall lets it disappear into the architecture instead of interrupting it, which makes the whole room feel much more considered. The mistake most people make is treating the door as an afterthought, something you pick from a catalog once the walls are already built. In a custom home, the door heights get decided really early on, in fact, right when the ceiling height is decided upon. That order matters more than people think. Once the door height is right, the next thing your eye picks up on is what's framing it, which is the trim. Now, one thing you can do if you've got doors that feel low, but you can't go into construction of putting in new doors, is to add sort of a thicker molding or trim or casing around the door that will improve the height of the door. That is a very good trick. So trim is a detail that tells your brain almost instantly whether a house was built with care. And most people never look at it directly, rather they just feel the effect of it. Builder grade trim is thin, flat, and small, usually 2.5 to 3 inches of baseboard and a similarly narrow window casing. It does its job structurally, but it reads as a complete afterthought. Proper trim is thicker, more substantial and proportional to the room around it. A taller baseboard. Usually I like to do baseboards anywhere between 6.5 to 7.5 inches. A raised strip added to the outer edge of a window or door frame are what separate a room that feels finished from one that feels standard. Of course, there are exceptions to this rule if you're building a modern home and you want to keep everything clean and minimal. Having your door go all the way to the top of the ceiling line is by far one of my favorite things to accomplish. But this again depends on the home that you are building. This is proportional, not universal. Trim that would look right in a room with 8-foot ceilings can look undersized in a room with 10. And the trim that looks appropriately grand in a formal space can look heavy and overdone in a small one. The rule of thumb worth remembering is that trim should grow with ceiling height, roughly scaling up as the room does. You also don't need ornate to get the custom effect. A simple clean profile executed at the right scale reads as more expensive than an elaborate profile executed too small. This is one of the biggest signals of a custom home, and it's one of the most overlooked because most people are looking at furniture and paint before they ever notice the frame the whole room sits inside. Once the walls and openings are framed properly, the eye naturally moves up to the ceiling. Let's talk about ceiling details. The ceiling is the fifth wall, and almost nobody designs it like one. Most homes leave the ceiling completely flat and completely untouched, which means the eye has nowhere to land above eye level. A little bit of intention up there changes the entire feeling of a room, and it doesn't require anything ornate to do it. Simple crown molding is the easiest entry point. It softens the line where the wall meets the ceiling instead of leaving a hard builder grade edge. Beams, whether structural or added purely for effect, bring scale and warmth into a room, especially one with high ceilings that would otherwise feel empty overhead. Tongue and groove paneling, my favorite, adds texture without adding visual weight. Coffered ceilings and tray ceilings can read as very custom when the proportions are right and very dated when they're not. So restraint matters here more than almost anywhere else on this list. Picture molding, a simple strip run near the ceiling line, originally meant for hanging art, is a quiet way to add architecture to a plain ceiling without committing to anything permanent underneath it. The goal isn't to decorate the ceiling for its own sake. It's to give the eye a reason to look up, because a room that has been considered from floor to ceiling reads as designed in a way that a room considered only at eye level never will. Quick pause. If you have been watching this and thinking you would love someone to actually look at your space and tell you what they see, I just launched the Good Eye Society, my new membership community. Every week I open up a real project and walk you through the actual decisions I made, where I spent, where I saved, and why. Members of the Good Eye Society also can submit their own rooms and get a direct, honest read on what is working and what is not. Now, not only do I appear once a week live on the Good Eye Society, but all the members within the community are here to help each other out. We are going to be sharing so many great sources and a great way for the community to be able to interact and find ways to make changes in your home or give suggestions. The link is in the description section. Okay, number 4, thoughtful millwork. Built-ins get all the credit here, but millwork is a much bigger category, and most of it is more accessible than people assume. Millwork is essentially any custom wood detail applied to a wall or surface, and it's one of the fastest ways to add architecture to a room that doesn't have any. Wall panel molding, simple rectangles or grids applied directly to a flat wall is one of the most affordable ways to add depth and texture without touching the layout. Board and batten does the same thing with a slightly more rustic, more textural result. Fluted detailing, although overused, whether on a kitchen island or a fireplace surround or even a piece of furniture, adds a level of craftsmanship that reads as interesting because it looks intentional rather than mass-produced. Integrating shelves built directly into a wall or alcove rather than added as a freestanding piece makes a room feel as if it was designed around how you actually live. Fireplace surrounds are one of the highest impact places to add millwork because the fireplace is usually already the focal point of the room. So any architectural attention there gets noticed immediately. Banquette seating, a built-in bench typically used in a kitchen or breakfast nook, one of my favorite things, does something similar. It turns an ordinary corner into a considered custom moment and looks so good. What all of these share is the same underlying idea. Millwork doesn't just decorate a wall, it adds architecture where there wasn't any to begin with. That's a different job than furniture does, and it's why a room with good millwork feels custom even when the furniture inside it is simple. Millwork gives a room its architecture. Lighting is what makes that architecture visible after the sun goes down. And yes, you guessed it. Lighting that feels integrated is what I'm going to be discussing. Most homes rely on one central fixture in the middle of the ceiling, and that single choice is responsible for a lot of rooms feeling flat and generic. A single overhead light does one job. It lights the room. It doesn't shape the room, and it doesn't highlight anything specific inside. Integrated lighting works differently. It's built into the architecture itself rather than added on top of it. Sconces flanking a mirror, a bed, to do double duty, they light the space and add symmetry at the same time. Art lights and picture lights direct attention to something rather specific than washing the whole room in the same flat globe. Cabinet lighting and toe kick lighting, the strip of light along the base of cabinetry, add a layer of ambient lighting that makes a kitchen or bathroom feel considered, even after the main lights go off. Remember, you must have some restraint when adding LED strips. We certainly don't want to recreate Vegas. The real shift is thinking in layers instead of a single source. A layered lighting plan combines ambient lighting for the whole room, task light for specific work areas, and accent light for the details you want the eye to land on. When all three are present, a room feels intentional in a way that no single fixture can achieve on its own, because the light itself has been designed rather than just installed. Luxury homes don't necessarily use more light. They use light with more purpose, more intention. That distinction is what separates a room that simply is bright from a room that feels completely done and finished. And finally, my very last tip, number 6. Consistency is sight lines and alignment. This is the detail almost nobody notices consciously, and it's the one that does the most work. Let me explain. Good architecture creates a sense of calm without you being able to say exactly why. That calm usually comes from alignment. Small, repeated decisions to line things up so the eye never has to register something feeling slightly wrong. Window heads set at the same height across a wall. Cabinet heights that match from one run to the next. Door hardware installed at a consistent height throughout the house instead of varying from room to room. A light fixture centered over an island instead of centered on a ceiling that isn't centered on the room. Believe it or not, these mistakes happen in the most expensive homes, and I see it time and time and time again. Some of the smallest versions of this principle carry the most weight. Flush HVAC vents and flush baseboard returns remove visual interruption the eye would otherwise register as clutter. Recessed baseboards, where the baseboard sits slightly behind the wall plane instead of protruding from it, is a detail almost exclusively found in high-end builds because it takes real precision to execute well. Screwless flush electrical plates remove one more small distraction from a wall that would otherwise be full of them. None of these individually would make someone stop and comment, but together they're the reason a space feels put together instead of just assembled. This is really a discipline more than a single design choice. It means going back through a space and asking whether everything actually lines up, the trim, the hardware, the fixtures, the reveals, and being willing to adjust the details most people would never consciously notice. Good architecture feels calm because everything in it has been visually organized, even the parts you're not really looking at directly. Every one of these comes back to the same principle. A home starts to feel custom the moment its architecture stops being an afterthought and starts being a decision, from the height of the doors to the alignment of the smallest hardware. If this was useful, please like it. It genuinely helps the channel. And tell me in the comments which of these your home already has and which one you're adding first. I read every single one of your comments, and I'm so excited and elated that we get to see each other every Sunday. So thank you again for your support, and I'll see you next Sunday. Now YouTube thinks you'll like this video, so keep on watching.